Hey everybody, welcome back to another Call of Duty Modern Warfare video. We've got new details about the brand new engine featured in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. A new article was posted on Activision's blog titled, quote, Modern Warfare Initial Intel Call of Duty Modern Warfare's game engine put through its paces. Modern Warfare, technically speaking, principal rendering engineer and studio head of Infinity Ward Poland, Michael Drobot, discusses the tech behind the new Call of Duty. He says, by now you're probably familiar with the launch trailer as well as the smattering of screenshots released showing the new game. Just to reaffirm what you're seeing, these visuals are in-game, not a pre-rendered and in-engine cutscene or something that's aspirational that the game was aiming for. This, Michael Drobot enthusiastically informs us, is the real deal. But it wasn't easy. An entire Infinity Ward tech studio based in Poland was built to bring this vision to fruition. Requests coming from design, coming from art, we really needed some improvements, so we had to create a new engine purpose-built for Modern Warfare. The process took over 5 years. Michael Drobot now proudly leads this specialized studio with one overriding goal in mind, to put all our focus into what this engine is capable of right now, and hopefully it shows. Flexible reflections. For any game launching today, you'd expect HDR and 4K visuals, which the game engine handles with aplomb. But there are additional engine capabilities constructed to help support the game design itself, as Drobot describes. We're making sure your experience is as realistic as possible. To make everything look cool isn't easy. First and foremost, this is down to compression techniques. Your console has a couple gigs of RAM, while the Infinity Ward's art team field trips taking photogrammetry images in the Arizona desert totals more than 2 terabytes of data. It's not easy to transfer that into the game. We spend a lot of time figuring out how to compress that data, to push that through, and to make sure that it actually represents what the data is in the game. What is photogrammetry? It's explained in a previous blog post, and I made a video about this that you guys should go and check out. That's on my channel. With photogrammetry data processed, Drobot's team began to turn environmentally elements into scenery into realistic assets. We had all the details coming in from photogrammetry from real objects. It's not as simple as taking a picture of a shrub or mud in the swamp and transferring them into the game. You have to understand how the mud reacts to different types of effects and different types of lighting. This is when Drobot and his team brought out the lasers. Yeah, we took laser scans. Some elements are semi-transparent, and transparent items are relatively easy to make look convincing, but making semi-transparent items that serve a gameplay effect or purpose look good is pretty damn hard. Turning photographs into sets continued for months, and Drobot's team discovered that for an object that requires reflective mapping, raw data only goes so far. The art department has hundreds of cameras that capture everything. We throw our lasers at the object and figure out from those lasers the actual reflections of the surfaces. How they reflect, it's not only about capturing the pixels that you're seeing, but how they reflect and react to light. We put a lot of effort into this. Naturally, this attention to detail and then reflective detail extended to all the weaponry. During this project, I've had to look at and touch a lot of different guns. This is a huge community of people who like to modify their weapons with really intricate details and materials that they use. There are powder coatings, ceramic coatings, and to make it always operate in the field, you need to clean it, oil it up. All the different textures on every weapon had to look perfect. We had to simulate a rainbow-like effect on the oil of the gun after you've cleaned it up. Translucent effects on the gun, ceramic effects, powder coating effects, elements of the magazines, we researched all of that. We made everything in the game look as good as they possibly can. The reflections, shadows, the ambient occlusion, all the bells and whistles. Let's get technical for a second. Cashing in on characters. As you'd expect, the same care and attention was given to all the characters in the game. We have photorealistic and lifelike characters. With Price being back, and he represents Modern Warfare to us, we really wanted to get the best out of our performance capture with the best actor possible for him. And for all the soldiers and the military consultants who acted as various characters, when you get raw footage from a motion capture rig, you get tons of data, and we had to compress all of it so we could replay it back in the console and still make the character believable, and be active while being controlled by you as the gamer. For this to occur, Infinity Ward utilized the same plan as CG studios do when making pre-rendered cutscenes, the only difference being these are real-time graphics. We performance capture tons of data, including detail like the wrinkles, the changes in tautness of the skin around the mouth when characters are talking or excited. This is Performance Capture 2.0, where you're getting this additional level of detail. Drobot then gets technical for a second. We have tech called LMB caching. We expanded the texture detail to get all the feeling of the skin itself. And then we needed super high fidelity meshes to make sure all the wrinkles, texture changes really are shown. We double up the subdivision surfaces for the content game engine. And there's a piece of tech from the movies where you take a mesh and it adapts to the data you're passing over it. We use this tech on the fly to make sure it looks as detailed as possible and bring down the detail slider when the character is further away to ensure that the performance stays at 60 FPS. This is a CGI piece of tech that has found its way into the game. Spectral rendering, vision beyond the human spectrum. Lighting plays a pivotal role in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The engine needed to be robust enough to handle the action, no matter the environmental effects in play. That includes visuals outside of the scope of human vision. We have tech that I'm really proud of called spectral rendering. If you take an image from the townhouse scene of the campaign and view it in normal lighting conditions, you can see much of the image is in complete darkness. We as human beings only see in RGB wavelengths. We don't see infrared, we don't see ultraviolet, but for the game engine, we wanted to see all those other spectrums of light. Does this mean the game can render in infrared even when you're not going to see it? Yes. For this game, we wanted it to be as real as possible. For example, as Tier 1 operators, you have the night vision goggles, NVGs, you turn them on and you see night vision. But what is night vision? Is it just seeing infrared? So we made sure that all the lighting in the game has the infrared spectrum. Or to put it another way, the game is constantly running in infrared just in case you put your night vision goggles on. Drobot is quick to point out additional effects too. We pushed it further than that. We have forward-looking infrared, or FLIR, which has something called deep infrared, and other ways that lighting reacts. We have lights that have thermal emission, like those lights that don't shine that bright, but be really hot to the touch. We also simulate that. This isn't just a post-processing filter though. There are a couple of main differences here. Drobot points to an area on the operator's gear. If you watch the trailer, you can see the bright shining squares all the Spec Ops teams in the world have these infrared patches that they apply to their accessories and their suits. They use them to be able to distinguish between friend and foe when they're in NVG mode. During combat, you can enter a room, switch to night vision, and immediately ascertain who is who. Seeing the patches under normal vision, you might be able to make out a very vague outline of the patch, but in NVG, it's as clear as day. The tech engine takes this light beyond the scope of human vision and applies it to other elements too. Study the NVG scenes of the trailer and you can see shadows being cast and illuminated from the infrared light on your NVG headset. Infrared lights like these can be attached to weapons, headsets, and shows you more information in the infrared view. We wanted to make the game as realistic as possible. This means you're able to play through missions however you like, including the use of lights. In Townhouse, you can shoot out the lights and switch on NVG, but if you look at the same rooms with natural lights, the room still looks real. That's because we have reflection filters on the lights under any conditions that as a gamer would create. Like thermal and NVG, they can be used for real. It's not a gimmick, it's part of our real gameplay. The pursuit of realism led the tech teams down a strange path, actually changing the output video of legacy imaging devices look worse compared to their modern equivalents. Authentic distortion, downgrading legacy visuals. NVG devices date back to the Second World War, Drobot explains. Snipers were actually using NVG rifles. It's interesting that the tech evolved throughout all those years, so we wanted to present you with multiple generations of this hardware. What do Tier 1 operators get? The super amazing, most modern version of NVG. Conversely, there are missions where you might be scrambling for legacy equipment where the imaging is far less perfect. You might find something during a mission that's from the 1960s or 70s, and our tech allows us to simulate that as accurately as we possibly can do. This also extends to the scopes of rifles too. You can see the image distortion you'd get from lenses is what you'd get in real life. With post-processing applied, it's what you would actually see in the devices, so artifacts and distortions are also shown. Thermal imaging is also key when revealing aspects of the game's story too. Drobot brings up a work-in-progress map showing an image from a drone flying over an enemy base in the desert under twilight conditions. You can see something is happening down there, but it's difficult to distinguish what is actually going on. There's some fire, but that's it. But if you switch to thermal, everything starts to make sense. Not only that, but heat signatures allow you to view game elements that would otherwise be overlooked. As Drobot explains, you can clearly see some kind of storytelling that went on here. which vehicles have just turned off their engines, the fresh tracks in the sand, as well as your friends and enemies. Depending on the tech you're using, the image you're seeing matches the period of time the technology was developed in. Thermal feels worse in times of quality of the imagery just because the resolutions are lower, because the rate of data passing through the camera is different. If you're watching Predator drone footage from around 1996 to 2012, the footage was a bit blurry. It has artifacts, as the military needs to simplify the data as they pass it super fast over their satellite network, so they compress it with JPEG compression. In these cases, Drobot's team dedicated much of their time to actually downgrading visuals to make them as accurate as possible. We spent extra time creating low quality compressed look with artifacts and compression on the blue and red with artifact squares forming. We call this the shitify filter. It's interesting because it's actually harder to make something look bad on purpose compared to the other way around. We spent far less time making depth of field filters look good comparing to figuring out how to reverse engineer data compression to make it look as shitty as the real thing. The result is that Infinity Ward's designers can specify parameters in the game's engine post-processing filters depending on how the image looked based on the equipment used in the past decades, pushing boundaries and polygons. One of the other improvements the new game engine brings to Modern Warfare is volumetric lighting. But unlike other games that might use God rays as a top-end gimmick feature, this game is different. Drobot continues, every single cubic inch of air around you is filled with something, dust, dirt, aerosols, gas, and it can change your vision and how lighting reacts, but you can also use it in the game's storytelling. That something happened at a location before you arrived. We really pushed hard with volumetric lighting, so every single light in the game is volumetric light, a real light with volumetrics built into it. There are no pretend lights here. We have specifications where our artists can change how dense the air is in any part of the environment. Maybe a cellar is dense with dust particles, and you can change this by your actions and by events. So maybe there's an airstrike and the air around you becomes much thicker, and we experimented with that to make sure volumetric lighting is as part of the gameplay itself. It affects how we play and the visuals. The last facet of game engine that Drobot is ready to reveal are the improvements to the geometry pipeline. Basically, the new engine has a new way to render objects. It allows us to push the polygon counts much further in our games than we are used to. If you watch the crowd scene from the trailer, each of the individuals riding in front of the embassy is a mass of triangles. Previously, we couldn't push as many triangles or as much geometry. The new system allows us to push roughly 5 times more geometry per frame than we're used to on consoles. Previous Call of Duty games were pushing around 3 million polygons per frame and up to 5 million. Recently, we raised the artificial limit we had imposed on our game engine to 16 to 17 million polygons per frame. We've had it up to silly levels, 24 million triangles per frame. And this is all to ensure we get all the data we have grabbed and match it in the game. All of this entails a lot of hard work by the talented teams at Infinity Ward, and all these tech features were developed with one overriding goal in mind: to bring to life game sequences, the gameplay, and the experiences that you can see and remember. So that was the article that Infinity Ward has just released about the new Modern Warfare game engine. So we had a previous video on the channel, like I already talked about, talking about photogrammetry and other techniques that are being used in Modern Warfare for this new game to make it look as realistic as possible and as authentic as possible. And here we got a new article, which is a really interesting read, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. For me personally, it's really fun and interesting to go through all of this and to learn about what is going to be changing within Modern Warfare, because from year to year we get some upgrades to visuals in every Call of Duty game, but then, you know, like Black Ops 4 kind of had a downgrade. But it's really interesting to hear these little details that you might not, you know, otherwise notice, like how they said here that in previous Call of Duty games they were limited to about 3 million polygons per frame, and in some scenes they could go up to 5 million. Well, now they're going up to 16 to 17 million, so they're pushing 5 times the amount of geometry per frame, and potentially up to 24 million triangles or geometry or polygons, whatever you want to call them. But that's just absolutely insane. So basically what this means is that everything in the game is made up of polygons, and like every single video game, everything is made up of like little tiny triangles and polygons. And to make like straight surfaces, so like a square or a cube, is really easy to do. But if you're trying to make something like a sphere or a circle, that's a lot harder because you're trying to draw them with straight edges, and it's a lot harder to draw a circle with straight edges if you don't have, you know, a lot of edges that you can use. So if you don't have a lot of triangles here, so they say that, you know, like they'd be pushing maybe 3 million per frame or something like that, and maybe up to 5 million, but you know, you can only have so many per frame. So basically what this would mean to, in like previous Call of Duty games, is you'd have, say, like a sniper scope where you can clearly see that it's like, it's not a smooth circle, but instead it's like, you know, I don't know what you call it, it's like an octagon or whatever, but it has like 12, 14 sides or whatever, you know, like a shape like that. I don't remember my geometry, excuse me here, but it's stuff like that, and it's obviously not like a full round circle, but that's basically what's going to be happening here, is it's going to get a lot closer to having a perfect circle, because now you have 5 times the geometry. And I mean, 5 times doesn't sound a lot until you take it into context and go from, okay, they're doing about 3 million all the way up to about 16 million. So that is absolutely insane. Like, you can just 5 times, that's crazy. So there's gonna be so much more detail in all of the scenes and all the images, because now they have so many more polygons they can do that. So now you're not gonna have as bad of aliasing, and all the like in-game objects are going to be a lot more smooth and a lot more detailed as well. So these are really interesting things that Infinity Ward is doing to the new engine within Modern Warfare, and it's really sweet. Also, how they talked about this new lighting techniques, and that they're going to be, you know, rendering the game in multiple lighting conditions and with multiple like spectrums of light, not just, you know, your standard light that we as human beings can see with our eyes. They're also going to be rendering it in like infrared as well. So it's not, you know, like in previous Call of Duty games, say in Modern Warfare 1 or Modern Warfare Remastered, whenever you looked, you put on your like night vision goggles, that was just a post-processing filter. That wasn't like how the game was actually rendering it. That was just a filter. Same as if you're using like a thermal scope in any multiplayer or whatever. You know, if you're using a thermal scope, that's all just like a post-processing filter that they're applying to the image. That's not actually what the game is rendering. But now the game is going to be rendering your traditional lighting, and it's also going to be rendering your like infrared, and it's also going to, you know, all come together to make it a more realistic and immersive experience. So this combined with all this other stuff, including how they're having this new shitify filter. So basically, you know, like if you're in a Predator drone, the feed that you're going to be getting isn't going to be this crisp, you know, high quality 1080p 4K stream, because that's not how it looks in real life. That's not how the military operates. The military has a lot of compression on that because they need to have it in super low latency to get it as close to real time as possible. And so that's what it's going to be represented in the game. So all these things are honestly really interesting for them to implement, and I think it'll be really cool that we have all of this come together, and hopefully should make Modern Warfare to be the best looking Call of Duty game to date, and should hopefully really set the bar for what a Call of Duty game visuals should be from now on. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up, and let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. I read all the comments, so make sure you guys do comment, and subscribe to the channel, because I have a lot more Modern Warfare videos coming soon, and tons more Black Ops 4's videos, including DLC 3 Zombies map coming out here in just a couple days as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.